When something outside of you provokes a strong emotional reaction, it can feel as though you are being pulled away from your center. This reaction, what we often call being triggered, is not caused by the outer situation itself, but by something that already lives within you. The event or person merely acts as a catalyst. It touches a pain body, an old emotional imprint stored in the energy field of your being, often rooted in past experience. This is why one person may react with anger or deep hurt to a comment, while another remains unaffected. What gets triggered is what has not yet been fully brought into the light of awareness. The question is not how to avoid being triggered, but how to remain conscious in the face of the trigger. The moment you notice reactivity arising, a tightening in the chest, a rush of anger, a surge of anxiety, that very noticing is already the beginning of freedom. Most people become lost in the reaction. They identify with the voice in their head, the emotion in their body. But you are not the reaction. You are the awareness that sees it. To live more freely, allow each trigger to be an invitation. Instead of contracting and resisting, become curious. What has been touched? What belief, what memory, what expectation has surfaced? These inner structures operate unconsciously until life exposes them. When you welcome this exposure, transformation begins. If you resist it, the old patterns will simply continue to run your life. Triggers are reflections of unresolved inner pain, not caused by external events. What often feels like a sudden, uncontrollable emotional reaction is in fact the surfacing of something much older, much deeper. The situation may appear new, but the pain it touches has likely been carried within for a long time. For example, someone's comment might make you feel unworthy or disrespected. While the words themselves are external, the emotional charge they ignite comes from within, perhaps rooted in a childhood experience where you were frequently dismissed or not heard. That early experience imprints itself into your emotional body, and unless brought into conscious awareness, it will remain there, ready to be activated under the right conditions. The trigger, then, is not really about the present moment. It is about the past seeking resolution. When people or circumstances activate that pain, it may feel as though they are the cause. The mind quickly assigns blame to the outside world, saying things like, "It made me feel this way," or "she ruined my peace." But when you look more deeply, you discover that the emotion already existed in some dormant form. The external event simply awakened it. Like stepping on a bruise you didn't know was there, the pressure doesn't create the pain. It reveals it. This is why two people can face the same situation and respond in entirely different ways. One may feel intense emotional distress, while the other remains calm and centered. The difference lies not in the external event, but in what each person carries within. Understanding this changes your entire relationship with being triggered. It invites you to shift your attention from the outer cause to the inner condition. Rather than trying to control people or avoid situations that might provoke you, you begin to see each reaction as a messenger. It's as if life is showing you the places within you that still need healing or awareness. These are not random emotional storms. They are clues pointing toward parts of yourself that are still in pain. To be triggered is to be given a window into these hidden aspects. The pain body, this term used to describe the accumulation of old emotional pain, feeds off unconscious reactivity. It becomes active when something threatens the identity it has built from past wounds. The moment you become aware of it, you begin to disidentify from it. You see the emotion rise, you feel its energy, but you no longer become it. This recognition requires honesty and humility. It's easier to blame someone else than to turn inward and examine the root of your pain. But the path to freedom lies within. Triggers are not a problem to be eliminated. They are signposts pointing you back to yourself. They reveal the places where your peace is still conditional, still dependent on things going a certain way. And that is where real transformation begins, not through suppression or avoidance, but through willingness to meet your inner experience fully, without judgment or resistance. Awareness of your emotional reaction is the first step toward freedom. When something or someone causes a sudden rush of emotion, anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, it's easy to get swept away by it. Most people live in this automatic state, reacting without reflection, letting their feelings dictate their words, their choices, their inner state. But the moment you notice the emotion arising, a shift begins. That noticing is not just a mental observation, it's a moment of presence. In that space, even if it's brief, you are no longer fully identified with the emotion. You are watching it, rather than being consumed by it. This slight separation, this gap between stimulus and response, is the doorway to inner freedom. The emotion may still be there. The body may still tighten, the heart may still race, the thoughts may still spin. But the awareness of it allows you to see that you are not the emotion. You are the space in which the emotion appears. This shift in perspective is subtle but profound. Most people say things like, "I am angry," or "I am afraid," as though the emotion is their entire identity. But when you become aware of the emotion, you start to realize anger is arising in me, fear is moving through me, but I am the awareness behind it. This awareness does not judge, resist, or react. It simply sees. And in the act of seeing, the unconsciousness begins to dissolve. It's important to understand that awareness doesn't mean suppression. You're not trying to push the emotion down or pretend it's not there. In fact, awareness allows you to feel it more fully, but without being overtaken by it. You allow the wave of emotion to rise and fall, knowing it is impermanent. You do not need to act on it, speak from it, or fuel it with your thoughts. You are present with it, and this presence alone has a deeply transformative power. The pain body thrives on identification. When you're not aware of your inner state, the pain body can take over your thoughts, your voice, your decisions. But with awareness, that power is interrupted. You begin to notice patterns, how certain words, situations, or people provoke the same reaction again and again. You start to see how much of your life is shaped by these emotional reflexes. And with that seeing comes choice. You are no longer a puppet of your past conditioning. You can choose stillness instead of shouting, patience instead of panic, understanding instead of attack. This process is not about perfect control. It's about honest presence. Even when you're deeply triggered, even when the emotion feels overwhelming, the simple act of noticing it creates a gap. In that gap, there is space. And in that space, there is the possibility of not reacting, of just being, of letting the wave pass without letting it carry you away. The more you practice this, the stronger your awareness becomes. It grows like a muscle. It becomes your refuge in the midst of emotional storms, your anchor when the surface of life becomes turbulent. Presence allows you to observe without identifying with the pain body. The pain body is not who you are, though it often speaks loudly in your thoughts and feelings. It is a field of accumulated emotional energy. built up over time through experiences of hurt, fear, rejection, and disappointment. When this energy is triggered, it seeks to take over your mind and your responses, feeding on drama, conflict, and emotional pain. But when you are present, truly anchored in the now, you begin to see this energy as something separate from your essence. You become the observer rather than the participant, the witness rather than the reactor. Being present means you are fully in this moment without overlaying it with stories, labels, or judgments. You feel your body, sense your breath, notice your surroundings. In that state, when a trigger arises, you may feel the old energy start to stir, but you no longer become it. You don't have to act from it or speak from it. Instead, you allow it to surface and pass through, as though you are holding a space large enough for it not to define you. This is where the true power of presence reveals itself, not as control or resistance, but as openness and non-identification. The pain body thrives on unconsciousness. It wants you to react impulsively, to feed it with negative thoughts, to tell the story of how you've been wronged. It uses the mind to generate narratives of victimhood, blame, and fear. But when presence is there, those mental narratives lose their intensity. You may hear them, but you no longer believe in them. They become like background noise, unable to pull you out of the stillness of now. That stillness is not passive. It is alert, alive, deeply aware. It is the field in which the pain body can be seen without judgment, allowing it to be felt without acting from it. This shift from identification to observation is not a denial of pain. It is a deeper acknowledgement of it. You are not running from it or distracting yourself. You are facing it with the light of consciousness. And in that light, the pain body begins to dissolve. It no longer has the fuel of your attention. It no longer hijacks your thoughts and behaviors. You begin to recognize its patterns, its voice, its tactics. And each time you do, its hold weakens. Presence breaks the cycle of reactivity, replacing it with clarity and spaciousness. Remaining present in triggering situations requires intention and practice. It means choosing to pause before reacting, to feel before speaking, to notice before judging. It means staying rooted in your breath, your body, your awareness, even as emotional energy tries to pull you into the past or into imagined futures. Presence is the antidote to unconscious reaction, the balm that soothes the restless pain body without feeding it. As you become more familiar with this inner stillness, you no longer fear the surfacing of emotional pain. You meet it with gentleness, spaciousness, and compassion. Every trigger is an opportunity to awaken and dissolve unconscious patterns. Life continuously presents situations and encounters that stir something within us, not to harm or punish us, but to reveal what lies hidden beneath the surface of our awareness. These moments, though often uncomfortable, serve as mirrors reflecting back unresolved aspects of our inner life. When someone says something that causes a wave of anger, sadness, or fear, it is not just about the words or actions themselves. It is about the stored energy within us that has not yet been fully met with presence. These emotional reactions are not random. They are precise indicators, showing us where we are still holding on to pain, belief systems, or identity structures rooted in the past. To be triggered is to be shown something. It is an invitation to pause and look within. Most people instinctively push away these feelings, blame others, or escape into distractions, missing the sacred opportunity that lies in the discomfort. But if you can stay present, even in the heat of emotion, you begin to see the pattern. You may recognize the same emotional response arising again and again in different situations, revealing a recurring theme. Perhaps it's the fear of being abandoned, the need to be validated, or the urge to defend your worth. These patterns, once unconscious, start to become visible. And what becomes visible in awareness loses its ability to control you. This is not about analyzing your feelings or endlessly dissecting the past. It's about feeling what arises in your body and mind without resistance, without adding a story. Just allowing it to be seen, felt, and held in the light of consciousness. In doing so, the energy behind the reaction begins to lose its intensity. The emotion still moves through, but it does not dominate your actions or define your sense of self. You become less reactive, more grounded, more centered in the now. Each time you meet a trigger with awareness instead of resistance, the unconscious pattern beneath it starts to weaken. It's as though the light of your presence is slowly melting away the structure that once kept it alive. Over time, what once provoked a strong reaction barely stirs you at all. This is not indifference. It is clarity. You still feel, but you are not ruled by what you feel. The trigger becomes less of a disturbance and more of a signal, an opening into deeper awareness. When viewed from this perspective, even the most challenging interactions become part of your inner unfolding. The people and situations that once seemed to irritate or hurt, you are seen not as problems to be solved, but as portals for awakening. They expose what is unconscious in you, not to condemn you, but to help bring you into deeper alignment with the truth of who you are. Every emotional reaction becomes a sacred teacher, calling you to come home to the still, aware presence that remains untouched by the waves on the surface. True peace comes from inner stillness, not external control. The world around you is in constant motion. Events change, people come and go, circumstances shift without warning. To base your sense of peace on the external world is to tie it to something that is inherently unstable. As long as peace depends on things going a certain way, you will always be at the mercy of life's fluctuations. The mind constantly tries to control these external conditions, believing that if it can just get everything to align perfectly, then peace will come. But this form of peace is fragile. It breaks the moment something unpredictable happens, which it inevitably will. Inner stillness is different. It is not the absence of noise or movement in the outer world, but a deep silence within, untouched by what happens outside. This stillness is always present, always available, but often unnoticed because the mind is busy chasing or resisting life. When you begin to rest in this inner stillness, you discover a space where thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, yet something within you remains unmoved. This is where true peace resides, not in the temporary calm that comes when things seem perfect, but in the unshakable presence that remains regardless of conditions. To access this stillness, you don't need to withdraw from the world. You don't need to silence everything around you. What's required is simply a shift in attention, from the outer to the inner, from the noise of the mind to the spaciousness of awareness. In the midst of daily life, even in challenging moments, you can pause, take a conscious breath, and bring your attention to this inner presence. It is always there beneath the mental commentary, beneath the emotional waves, like the depth of the ocean beneath the surface. When something triggers you and you feel the urge to react, that is the exact moment to turn inward. Instead of trying to control the situation, control your surroundings, or control another person, You allow yourself to feel what is arising without identifying with it. You bring your attention to the stillness within, even if just for a few seconds. That small moment of presence has the power to change everything. Not because the situation has changed, but because your relationship to it has changed. You are no longer acting from fear, from ego, from the pain body. You are responding from a place of grounded awareness. This peace that arises from stillness is not passive or weak. It is not about becoming emotionless or indifferent. It is spacious, alive, alert. It gives you the ability to meet life as it is without needing to manipulate it. It allows you to feel everything deeply while remaining rooted in something deeper than emotion. The more you connect with this inner space, the less you are shaken by external events. You become the calm in the storm, the stillness beneath the movement, the silence behind the noise. You are not the reaction. You are the awareness behind it. When a reaction arises, whether it's anger, fear, irritation, or defensiveness, it often feels like it overtakes you completely. The body tenses, the mind races, and your words and actions begin to flow from a place that feels automatic, almost involuntary. This is the power of unconscious identification. You believe in that moment that the emotion is who you are. The story in your head seems real, the pain feels personal, and the reaction seems justified. But none of that defines you. What you are is the awareness in which the emotion, the thought, and the reaction all appear. This awareness is spacious, silent, and untouched by the fluctuations of emotion. It sees the anger rising, it notices the fear tightening the chest, it observes the urge to speak or act from that charged energy. But it does not engage. It simply watches, and in that watching something extraordinary happens. The identification begins to dissolve. Instead of being caught inside the emotion, you begin to hold it in your presence. You feel it fully, but you are no longer fused with it. There is a space between you and the reaction, and that space is the doorway to freedom. Most people spend their lives without this space. They live as if every thought is true, every emotion is a command, and every reaction must be followed. But once you begin to recognize that you are not your reactions, you reclaim your power. You begin to respond rather than react. You no longer feel the need to defend the ego, to prove yourself right, to control others through emotional outbursts. You start to live from a deeper place, one that is not touched by the ever-changing conditions of your inner or outer world. This does not mean reactions will never arise. They may still come, perhaps out of habit or from unhealed layers within. But even then, you are no longer lost in them. You see them for what they are: temporary movements of energy, conditioned patterns, echoes of the past. And the more you rest in the awareness behind them, the weaker they become. You don't fight the reactions, and you don't suppress them. You simply see them with clarity, and in that seeing, they lose their ability to dominate you. Over time, this presence becomes your natural state. The emotional storms may still pass through, but they don't uproot you. You remain grounded, open, and alert. You begin to live in alignment with the awareness that you truly are, rather than the reactions that once defined your experience. The mind quiets, the body softens, and you engage with the world from a space of stillness rather than survival. The shift from identification to observation transforms not just how you feel, but how you relate to others, how you handle challenges, and how you experience life itself.